Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's time to trim up the Cotoneasters and get them ready for winter. The sun is making its glorious ascent over the neighbor's house, and so we're going to get a little bright here in a moment, so we'll have to adjust our settings on the camera. But it's a beautiful morning, beautiful fall morning here in Minnesota. We got down into the upper 30s last night, so a lot of the trees are starting to go into that warm afternoon, cool evenings. Leaves are changing colors. Most of my trees have not had a massive tree color change yet, although in Minnesota we're over 50% of the state has reached its peak of beautiful fall colors. My Cotoneasters, several of them on the bench this morning that are a little bit thick, need a haircut. I left a couple grow throughout the summer after an initial trim this spring. A couple of them I did prune once, and so I was experimenting and see how a second flush of growth would go with some of the trees. And so this guy is a little bit frizzy on top. It's got some nice thickness all the way around. This is an oval pot, but this would be a nice tree in a circle pot, a round pot, because it's really quite nice to look at all the way around. And I'm actually trying to decide what the front's going to be the next time I repot, because I have it in the pot right here, and it's got kind of a lean going this way and this way, or you could turn it this way, but this is in our face. So this is in our face too, but I can't remember which one was the front. But then as I started to look at this tree from the narrow part of the oval, this almost has a front. The tree is still leaning more to the right, and you can see more of those branch structures. It looks more well-rounded. My other concern, let's get a close-up of this, is the bulging at the point where all the branches spread apart. There's too many branches there, so this one wasn't trimmed young enough in its life where we would avoid those bulges. So let's take a peek at that real quick.
So laying on the spinning board, this is one of the proposed fronts, and we have branches coming out at us, so we'd have to adjust those over time. Let's spin the tree around and show you the other side. So here's the other proposed front, and you got that lower branch on the left there. A lot of branch coming right out at us though on this side, so I think the other side was the proposed front. And now what I'm trying to think about is if I did the tree this way next time I repot, look at all the division of branches, and you can see 3, 4, 5 branches as you go up the trunk, and there's still a little bit of a lean to the right. We could always accentuate that at the next repotting there. Now what I'm having concern about though, and this actually hides it at this angle too, is the bulge right there where the branches divide. So where my finger is here, we have that area is where all the branches kind of split off, where there's kind of a bulge there. And so we have to clean that up. See if we can see it from the other side. See, the other side hides it better too. So we'll have to see.
So upon closer inspection, what I thought was the front makes the bulge look the worst. This side you don't see the bulge as much, but that's because this chunk of branch is in our way. It takes our eye away from the bulge a little bit because this pokes out at us. And then this side, if that's the new front someday, make the tree look a little bit thinner. There's not as much girth at the bottom, but it hides the bulge up there in the center a lot better. So one of those branches might have to come off as a major prune today, so we can avoid that growing thicker next year and creating this super big bulge. So before I make any cuts on this today, I do want to get a feel for how this might work out if we change the front. And the side that I thought was the front definitely does not show off the tree in its best glory, so I think we're gonna switch to make this potentially the front. But if I do that, if I make this the front and cut off these branches right here to reveal this part of the tree, which still has a nice spread of branches, that would make this as the front not nearly as attractive because I would lose this stuff over here. Although we still have many options. And then I like this branches down here simply for the fact that it should be bulking up this area down here. We want this to bulken up so we don't have this as the thick parts. We have reverse taper, so this needs to thicken up a little bit. So this sacrificial branch is okay, but it's just making the branch is making it thick right down here, not up in here. So this area right here is just a little bit too thin. But we definitely have to slow down this midsection, so we have to make some decisions here. One thing to keep in mind for this lower branch too is it's really low on the tree. And so in nature, if this was the lowest branch, it's really close to the ground. And even though in scale this might be 5 feet off the ground, if this was a monster tree, I don't know if it just looks as realistic down there. And so we might even chop that branch off entirely someday and leave most of the tree higher up. Something else to look at is right here. This branch right here is definitely the thickest, and it is like the main trunk of this tree's leader, and everything else was just offshoots. There's 3 branches right here. This one divides not even an inch above the trunk line here. It splits into 2. So what great ramification, and splits right here. So this is a really nice, that's a great set of branches right there. So you almost like to keep that, right? So do I get rid of this one right here, so we don't have this big one over here and this one over there? That might make the bulge look a little less intense. And if you did have the tree this way from the front, if this was the front someday, this branch hides the branch back here that is subdividing so well. So I'm inclined to just take that one off right now. I got this one right here that's in front of this back here. So we're gonna go ahead and this one was in here blocking right there. We take that out. And now we can see these 2 branches. This has the really good division. And then it makes the bottom part here look a little bit less bulky already. And we can clean it out a little bit more. We can make it really concave. And then when it heals, hopefully you'll never know that there was a branch there to begin with. So this is just giving us the opportunity to get rid of some of that bulge just by cutting away that branch. So there's that first cut right there. And so now even if this is the front someday, right here, this is the third choice up front, you can see more branches. This was the main front right there actually. And we've kind of cleaned it up to make it a little bit nicer. If this becomes the front someday, oh, we got the sun coming in now. If this becomes the front someday, we've got boom, boom, boom right here, and we can see a nice spread of branches, and this lower one could just come right off. And I like that. That's super nice as the front, I think, compared to any of these other ones, which show off that super low branch. Also shows off the bulge more when this hides the bulge more because of the branch structure. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We took out that bottom one as well. And we don't want any unnecessary bulging down here either. There. So that branch is gone back over there. And even when you look at the tree this way, this could be a possible front someday. So there we go, there's the first cut. I got that one out to show off this branch more. And we ended up taking that lower branch off. So So no matter what the front is, this new side here, slightly angled from over here, we've cleaned this tree up here, so now it looks like it's a tree that's split down below and grew 2 or 3 major branches now. And if we cut all this back to about here, we'd get new branches like this guy right here. It'd become the new major branches. And we'd have our nice thick trunk, and we'd move up to the thinner branches. This is too high right here, so we're gonna cut that off, because we have these branches down here that will grow into the new main branches. So and right here where this one I just cut off, this comes up here and splits into 3 branches up here. Here's the main one going in the back. Here's a pretty strong one going up and dividing right there, and this is kind of a newer branch. We'll see which one does better next year, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the thick part right there. So this was here, we cut that off, and now this. So the trunk where I just cut this branch here kind of goes back to the back a little bit, and this is the next main branch right here. We'll leave all that growth, and we'll see which one does better next year. Okay, so then we just got to cut all this stuff around here to kind of see where everything's going to match up. So let's look at this branch right here. So this lower branch right here grows out. It was cut right here this year. We've got these 2 new growths right there. So we can cut this back even further now, because I've got bud here, and this branch right there. So we're going to cut this all the way back to here. So here we got this branch growing here. We've got a branch right there and a branch right there. This will divide really nicely. We twist the tree around. We're definitely going to make it shorter right there. I don't need all this length. Yeah, so harder to see here, but we have 3 branches there. 1, 2, 3. One of those is going to take off real nice, and we'll do some more trimming next year. I keep twisting to the back, and I'm just going to cut this whole big one off, because there's a branch here, and there's a branch there, and other leaves inside there. So now this whole branch is kind of almost like a mini pad, if you will, and that'll grow next year. So we're looking at this side right here, and I do really like that as the new front. I like the movement of the branches when this is the front. So this main guy is kind of coming out at us, and there's a nice branch. There's several branches growing off of this one. I'm just going to get that thick part off. Thick part here, and there's still some branches here. We'll just leave that for now. It's still kind of in our face, but we can see through the tree in here and here. And so this, we'll just monitor this area. But you'll notice a really tall branch back here. Look at this one. It's almost like 8-10 inches tall. Grows from the same branch. So I could either cut down to that branch and then just trim it up, and we have that nice little divide right there. Hard to see on the camera, but I've got the branches down here. There's even a little one right there, and then this big guy in the back here. So if I cut down to that, I should get new growth there next year. So I will do that. We'll let this one stay about that tall for now, and we'll just see how this subdivides down there. And then this branch up here, we got this branch here. This was all this new growth since I trimmed it last, because here is a trim cut right here, and this one took off really nicely. This one's coming out here real nice, and I've got a branch back in here that's from this same branch structure. So I can go ahead, cut all that growth off. Because I've got this guy right here and this right here. We'll see where those grow next year. And I'll just make it shorter. Make it shorter. And make this one more shorter. And we got this guy coming from the back. So as I twist this around, Here's that dividing tree that we saw and we liked before. But if this is the front, this is looking a little crowded back here. So I think I am going to take this one off. Let these branches grow out this way. This is the one going to grow up this way. And back here, I cut it so it'll grow back to the back more with this guy over here. So now I've got that in the back there behind the 1, 2, and 3 is kind of the main branches here. There's a really nice movement on this one. We can't see it back on the camera angle as much, but it goes up and then over this way. We'll just leave that there for now. And we'll keep spinning the tree around, working towards the back. We'll just shorten that bottom one. Just gonna shorten these before I look at the bigger structure. So that was just a trim, right? Looks like a nice, lovely tree now. But where can we structurally make this tree a little bit better? And now this structure and this structure is still a little thick back here. And I like back here, if you're looking through the tree now and you see the tree here, this branch goes this way. So let us cut off the part that goes to the right, so we have a branch growing back that way. So this was growing up this way. Now we're gonna keep this one, and I'm gonna cut this one down to this bud right here, so it's gonna grow this way more. I'm gonna go shorter on this one because there's two sets of buds split down there. And this one in the back, there's a new branch coming off this way, so we'll go ahead and cut it down to that one. And the only thing that's top heavy on this tree now is this guy over here. So this is a branch that's going way over there. We don't want any of that. We're gonna get rid of that one there. And we got this thick section right here. I'm gonna cut down to where it divides into two. We'll let that decide what's gonna grow next year. And this one, the same thing. Here's a nice new leader right here. This guy right there is a leader. So this thick one is gonna come off right above that point. And now it kind of comes up this way, goes this way, and maybe wants to come back this way. And now from the front of the tree, we don't see that as much because it's got a weird division. We can maybe twist this branch someday. So for my proposed front, this is the new look of the tree. And this one we can now just shorten up. We can shorten up that one. And all these leaves, we'll let them go. And then they'll fall off eventually. And we'll get new growth for the spring. So here is Cotoneaster number 1. And so this was the front. And now we're going to propose that something like that is the front. So moving out of the sunlight a little bit, this is now maybe the proposed new front. To change the angle just a little bit, you'll be able to see that division of the trunks down there. We've got nice left side, middle, right, and then back there deep for perspective. That might look nice as the front next year, a little bit off to that one side. We could twist a little bit around. We'll see how the branches fill in. There's a nice look right there. So there's the Cotoneaster number 1. So here is Cotoneaster number 2, and this is one of the Cotoneasters that we did prune earlier in the year. You can see the growth isn't quite as spraggly as that last one, straggly. And so we just have a little bit of cutting up to do today, if any. just to keep this going the right direction. So we moved some branches last time, got a big major chop here and here and here, and so we've got some movement of these branches, super nice. And if we just go ahead and we literally just give this a trim here to push some growth next year back into some deeper down into the tree, like this one right here, that's going to take over for what was up here. We do have a crossing branch that's back here, so we'll go ahead and cut that one off. And this one we're going to encourage to grow this way, but shorter down right there, and see what that branch does. And this one we have our movement. We got some new branches right here that could come this way to help fill this up. So again, we'll just keep it down. This branch right here, you know, could be wired down here, and we can see or cut off completely. We could use this as the main branch, but we're just going to see what these are going to do next year. I will cut this one back so it grows that way. And I'll cut off this competing side over here. So we'll just see what those do next year. This main branch is kind of thick in our face, so we're hoping this right here is going to be the new main branch. It's kind of thick right here though. So I think we are going to cut this back one more section leading into the winter here, so we can get more growth back and let this one become more of the main branch. This one's nice, it's growing up here, but we're going to go back even further, just shorten that a little bit more, always making it more compact. We're going to want maybe that direction on this branch. A lot of clutter in there. I'm just going to cut that one off. We'll go with this growth right here. And then we got that one back here. So we've just really compacted this, and we'll just see what happens with next year's growth. We can just let it go explode and see what's going to happen, and then we'll make some more decisions. If you look real closely on this thick branch right here that we did chop way up here, there's a new branch right there, a new branch over here. We can get rid of this whole branch next year probably, because this will be a branch that'll survive, this will be a branch that'll survive, and all this thickness will be gone, and then we'll have thick to thinner right here, and then those will divide and even into thinner, right? But right now we have a thickness that's pretty consistent all the way through here. So we'll cut this whole branch off next year if these take off really well, but we're not going to do that now because I don't want to risk any dieback to kill those buds. So we got this growth here with some green on there, we get all this growth right here with some green, and then those two branches down there, here and here, with my finger and my scissors, those two will be the main ones we'll be looking at for next year. And then this guy right here will let us cut this branch even further if it keeps growing, and we'll get rid of the thick branch, all these thick branches right here and here, right there and right there. We'll get rid of those we'll choose this instead, so it'll keep the path growing up and from thick to thinner, right? So we'll hide this wound back here with that growth, and it'll keep this from getting way too thick if we cut these thicker ones back. So I think we can cut back even further on that one then. There we go. I'm going to cut even further back. So we just cut those two real back in favor of this right here. There's still green here and here, but this is the one we hope that grows, and then the tree goes up this way and comes up this way, then we'll have it go this way or whatever. So this has a nice little compact look now. Could even cut this off to this branch. I could cut this down too, because there's a branch right here. There's branches right here. Let's do that right to here. There, that'll be the leader. And I just want those two to survive down there, so I'm going to hold off on that one right there. So that's all we'll do for Cotoneaster number 2. The fun part about this one is we are growing on a rock right here. We got this big root system that comes this way. We can play on this and put this on some really cool rocks in the future. So I can't wait to see what this one does next year. So there we have Cotoneaster number 2. So here we have Cotoneaster number 3. Big old gnarly bark here. Look at that one. It's like this tree hugged this tree and totally took over. These two roots might come out someday. When I repot this one, either this coming spring or in 2 years, I'll see which one of these two or both of these roots could come off, or I'll leave them on for the unique look. Very unique. It looks like this tree grew on top of this tree and it's taken over completely. Now I can cut this whole tree out. We just have this one. We can continue with two. We could have it a split trunk down at the bottom. If I cut these roots off, we can actually see the division. You got this good old barky, gnarly look at the bottom here at the back. But this was the proposed front with all that activity. Probably more at a slant so you can see this more, so we'll have to repot it so this becomes more the front instead of like this. The way it's potted in the plant right in the pot right now, yeah, that's not too bad. But if we go like that, open it up just a little bit, we see all that activity, especially with the sun blaring on it right now. So what are we going to do with this tree? This is one of the ones where we had a big cut right here, we had a chop right here, this all grew, big growth this year after the original small prune. We got this curve of this trunk going over to the left and then kind of coming at us, and then this one nicely curves over here and then it comes up here. So if that's the new main branch, you know, is it going to continue in that direction with this leaf here or this leaf here? This one over here now comes up and then curves up over this way. Which way is that one going to go? Which way is that one and that one? This one we're going to cut off here. So we're just giving it a trim right now. So that just brings it back into shape. If you can look back here inside the tree now, we got the growth going this way. We've got a little back bud way in here. We don't need that one. You got this right here growing right next to this big thick one back there. Well, we don't need them both, so I'm going to cut that one off. And this one, we don't know, that could be a nice branch someday. We're going to go ahead and cut it in half and we'll see what it does next year. We'll see if we keep it. If not, it thickens up this area a little bit, but we've got all these thick branches right here. This is one I trimmed already just a few moments ago, and it's growing right here where there's another leaf trying to grow. And here's the old branch right here. This is new growth just this year, and it shot out by this inner node right there and took over really. So do I want the lower branch or do I want it to continue to go up more with this original branch? I like the thickness of the new one. I'm going to cut the old one off. But this one does go this way. We'll cut it there and hope that this takes over. We got two leaves on here. We'll hope we get some back bud in here or this takes off next year. So it goes up and over this way and then up this way, if we even keep it, right? And here's another back bud right here by our cut point. This wants to be a big branch someday maybe. This one's growing in at us. Let's cut it off. This branch has a nice back bud back here. I would imagine we'd get more back budding there where I just cut this right off here. There might be some more growth there with some light in there. But either way, this branch is kind of long and doesn't do anything till way out here. There's a smaller branch behind it you can't see. I'll cut to that right now and we'll decide later. Let's make it a little bit shorter right now. This has a new branch right here. There's some stuff on the bottom here that we won't keep. So these Cotoneasters back bud really nice, as you can see. So we got this major branch here and this thing right here. Got this real chunky thing here with a couple of cut branches and some wounds which will heal over time. But do we want to keep any of that? Here's the brand new growth. Here's the solid branch from before, and there's a split back here with a couple of branches. One's back here more. Because this is in the front and so thick, I'm just going to take it off. Make a big decision right there because we've got this branch growing behind it. Right here. And because there's a nice branch right here, it's pretty established already. It's more than just leaves right here. There is a little bit of woody substance right there. We can go ahead and cut it right here and let that grow next year. Now we're going to get it growing this way. I'm going to shorten this one a little bit more. shorten that one, shorten that one. So these branches right here are competing for each other right here. They're both going over to the right. This one comes up here, and we're either going to use that as a new branch maybe someday, maybe this one back here as a branch, or this one right here. So let's cut the rest of it off. So none of that back there is competing for this right here. This is a little bit too straight up, so we're going to let some more of this stuff try to grow and see. And from the back here we got this lower branch. Now we can just let this one grow and see what it does. So now we got some really cool movement in here. Look at that. Up here, this way, if this becomes the new leader, this becomes the new leader, or we can even have this become the new leader. We have lots of options. And I'm gonna cut this one shorter because we got this branch right here. Really nice curved up branches. It wants to grow up already. So that could become a new leading branch. So this is all setting up for growing for next year. And we got this one in the back here. It's got this old branch that kind of comes down here and swoops up here, so that's pretty cool. We'll cut this lower one off because we want to see it grow up here. But I'm gonna cut it back down to here because I got this lovely branch right there growing. And that's the back of the tree, so from up here now, there we go. This branch will come up here and fill this spot pretty nicely if this one doesn't do very well. So then these two, you see how this one goes off this way? Cut that off, this keeps going this way. But this is all just too tall. We'll let these leaves do the work next year. Cut that one off there. Cut that one off there. And who knows if any of that's gonna stay. This whole tree again could come off right here. We'll just have this as the tree someday. We'll just kind of see what happens in here. We got kind of a messy scar there. The growth is in the back of this right here, so we'll just try to get rid of some of the ugliness of it. It's of course in our face right now, but over time that's going to get dirty and heal up like any of the other wounds. You won't even see it as much, but then this will hopefully take over and grow up. And again, we might take this completely off right here someday and just have this as the tree. There is some damage back here, but it's all healing up over each other. It looks like a really old gnarly trunk now. Maybe that'll be the front someday. Look at this nice movement here, this thick old branch here that comes up like that. This comes up over here now and goes over like that. Some fun stuff on this little tree. It's just all over the place, and we just don't know what it's going to be long term. So there is tree number 3, Cotoneaster number 3. I'm all done with the Cotoneasters, and so I'm going to work on my purple leaf sand cherry. So this is a new species for me, and I saw this in the discount section for a ridiculously low price, as always. And I thought it'd be really cool to have a tree in my collection that really was that deep, dark purple look throughout the year. And this tree was the one that just caught my eye. Now, I got rid of a major root down here when I put it in this box. And I was really nervous that I cut too much off. And we're gonna have to trim some of this up and clean it up. We got all kinds of other roots though, growing down and in. Got this big slant style. And then I had some critters go after it a little bit. And I have pruned it a couple of times. And so there's some gnarliness to this tree already, and it's kind of in rough shape at the moment. So we're hoping we get some more back budding next season and see what happens. But when I cut this back after the critters got it, it grew back really, really nicely. It responded well. So the purple leaf sand cherry. So we're gonna go ahead and just make some fall cleanup decisions here. We got some branches that were plucked off for whatever reason. And we're gonna wanna promote some new growth next year. Everything swoops this way in an immense way. We can change the angle of the planting in the future. We've got a big break up here. This is where it was chopped at one point, here and here and here. So this grew really strongly from these cut points. This was a cut right here, and this grew really well from that cut point. So I'm really happy with how it responded to the pruning after some damage. We've got a little bit of damage up here, and I'm not sure if the critters were trying to eat that there, but then this started growing right here, back in on that old wood. So I know this tree is going to do well budding back. So we're going to go ahead and make some cuts. So see, we have this old cut up here and some damage, and then look at this leaf, this branch that took off right there. So nice new growth right there. So we'll just clean up this part that was getting icky anyway, and that's just, now we've got some movement in that branch, and we don't need this tall, right? So we get rid of that. This is the new branch. So, and then this is some growth underneath where this damaged part is. So there's a little bit of damage right here before this section right here. So we'll just trim it down and see what happens next year. We're just going to leave this one alone. This one stems from this one, which has this growth up here. It looks really weird in the design right now, so we're just going to cut that one off. And we'll just promote. This has more of a purple cambium layer instead of green. So if you look at these cuts that I have, there's a little purple cambium layer instead of that green we're used to seeing on a lot of our trees. Now this one and this one starts to compete. These compete with each other, right? So I would probably cut this branch off here, but then it's got a really gnarly looking section there. We don't know if that's going to survive. I'm going to cut it off up here though right now. This one I'm just going to cut shorter. Let me cut this one shorter, and this one shorter, that one shorter. So sometimes it's easy just to come in and of course give it a little bit of a haircut. And we've got a smaller tree to work with. This branch way back here, so it's the back of this section here that splits into three in a really weird situation here. So maybe we cut that whole one off. But this is where we have to start looking at the tree. Can we plant it up like this someday? And those kind of compete with each other and they fight with each other. Can I change the front of this tree to be this way instead of this way? This way. Yeah, this has that rough part right there. Don't know what's going to happen. We could have some dieback this year because of that. So this back one is super long, and I don't even know if I want to keep it. But if I cut it back here, we might have some buds right here, buds right here. We might have some buds that bud back right here on the other internodes where the leaves and branches have fallen off. But it's a new species to me, so I don't know if I cut all this back right now in the fall, if I'm going to get buds to really push between now and the spring. I do know that it's too long up here. We have this split back here, so I just make it shorter. As everything else in bonsai, we make it more compact, we're in good shape. And see what survives the winter. I think we just leave it alone. Because it's a new species to me, I want to see how it's going to come back after the first winter. I picked this up this spring, discount section in the spring. And it did respond well when the critters got to it. I put it in my garden so the rabbits would leave it alone. I think it was the rabbits. And then we had some good growth after that. So I know that it'll grow a nice second push of growth in the summertime after a spring prune. But we have this much more short and compact. We'll just see what happens with back buds, and we'll just see what happens in the course of this winter into spring before we make any other major decisions. So there's the purple leaf sand cherry, and we'll let it go right there. The sun continues to rise over the trees to have some light here on the new bench that we put up this year. And the trees are looking nice. The trees are looking healthy. We just did the Cotoneasters here. Got them back on the shelf. One of the other Cotoneasters had a lot of berries this year. And so it looked like that mini apple tree. I've got a photo here I can show you real quick with the mini apple tree look with the Cotoneaster. The tamarac's looking good, waiting for some fall color on this guy over here. We've got one of our Japanese maples that has been through a lot this year and now losing its leaves and didn't have a lot of spectacular color, but we still have some leaves on that one. We got the blue arrow juniper that's looking more and more like an old growth tree from the west coast. I have a plan for the blue arrow juniper. So I was at the redwood forest earlier this year. Gonna have an episode coming up on the journey in the redwood forest, and the old growth trees don't have any branches until way up above 100+ feet. And this tree right here, this blue arrow juniper, likes to grow really up tall, and so it has that kind of cathedral look when you cut some of the branches, and it wants to grow back up. So that tree is going to be fun to maybe have as a centerpiece in a forest, an old growth forest of trees, where that one is the towering big general type tree that's the 300+ feet in the air with all the other trees below it. So we'll see what happens with that one, but still doing well, growing up to the sky there. A couple other junipers on the bench here, and even a cutting of a Japanese maple. We've got a not the Cotoneaster, but the bayberry down at our barberry plant on the lower left side from my angle. So the bench is looking real nice. The sun will come out here in another hour or two to highlight these trees right here. My cascading juniper. It's a beautiful fall day in Minnesota. We're doing some fall preparations, getting ready for winter. That does it. We'll catch you very, very soon. Take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we will see you on the next one.